Emergency! Emergency!
Frantic calls for help go out just seconds after impact.
Get out before we get out! On fire in the front. What's wrong? On fire!
The scene? Devastation.
Collision. Emergency! 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 Major collision!
Crushed train cars, a huge fireball, plumes of smoke.
Many injuries. Major collision.
Got a lot of injuries. He says he's got a lot of injuries.
On fire.
This is chaos.
Yeah, just chaos over here. We're in Chatsworth right now, the northwest end of the San Fernando Valley. This is a Metrolink and a freight train that have somehow collided here.
People screaming and yelling, and people were bleeding.
It's California's worst train disaster ever. One of the worst in U.S. history. 25 people killed, more than 150 hurt. Most of us now know an engineer texting at the controls of the train caused the disaster. But there is a deeper root cause. A French multinational conglomerate that turned a blind eye to safety concerns and is now running for legal shelter instead of helping the victims. Unless you take action, the families ripped apart by this crash will get only a fraction of what they need. They now ask for your help to get the justice they deserve. Rachel Maffia dreamed of being a business owner and doctor. And she was on her way to achieving it. She was studying in Los Angeles on a Rotary scholarship. Just 2 days from finishing her program, when she boarded Metrolink 111 at Union Station.
So I remember getting on the train, and then it started moving. And then what happened afterwards, I don't remember.
She doesn't remember the impact that catapulted her inside the car and sent her into flaming wreckage, snapping her ankle, ripping off her leg muscle, burning her shoulder to the bone, tearing her cornea, and shattering her skull, so badly that rescuers could see her brain inside her head.
I'm reading that.
Today, Rachel is a different person.
It seeks a higher...
Doctors had to remove part of her brain. Now the words don't come as quickly, and the emotion is still raw.
Sometimes I just love to cry. I just want to cry to remove the pain that I've been going through.
And she'll require constant care. She can't make decisions for herself.
You have to explain things several times for her to actually understand the information you're giving her, if she hasn't heard it before.
The road ahead is filled with more surgeries, more pain, but mostly uncertainty. Her dreams of graduating the medical school where she was accepted are gone, her once sharp mind now confused. And her skin is branded forever with the scars of Metrolink 111.
Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you.
And they're a happy couple.
56-year-old Doyle Saucer was an entrepreneur, CPA, and MBA. But none of those titles mattered nearly as much as the titles dad and husband.
Thanks so much for being the best dad ever. The best. You're the best.
Doyle rode the Metrolink to work almost every day, usually a Wall Street Journal and Bible in hand. On September 12th, he took an early train to get home in time to help with a dinner party.
The phone rang and a friend said, you know, Claudia, there was really a horrible train crash. Doyle wasn't on that train. He never is, right? And I'm like, yes, he was. And my world started spinning. I turned on the news and this smoldering, crazy scene.
It's so chaotic at this point. You see victims strewn out all along this train.
Doyle's was the last body found in the wreckage. It wasn't until the next day his family found out he was gone.
It's not like they had cancer and you were holding their hands and saying, goodbye, I love you, tell me the last advice you have. You know, it's just like, boom. You go from happy and planning life and moving through it to you hit a brick wall.
many difficult times. Most important.
Daughter Mackenzie clings to the letter her dad wrote her just days before the crash. She found out he died on her 13th birthday.
Mackenzie, we are so blessed to have you in our family. It is our pleasure to see you grow up and be such a blessing to others.
For me, I don't get to have my best friend and my role model.
I mean, he was all of our best friends. He was everybody's best friend. He was just such a great guy.
The Saucers cling to their faith in God, but worry about the future. Now each day is a struggle to get by and to fill the void left by the man who gave them everything. Investigators now know what happened during the final moments of Metrolink 111. As the train approaches control point Burnson, the signal shows flashing yellow. That signal tells the engineer, prepare to slow down. Engineer Rob Sanchez reports seeing the signal over the radio as required. When the train reaches the next signal, 4451, it shows solid yellow, telling the engineer, prepare to stop at the next light. But Sanchez doesn't report seeing that signal and keeps going. The train stops at the Chatsworth station for about a minute while passengers board, then accelerates away. At 4:21 and 3 seconds, Sanchez receives a text message. Up ahead at control point Topanga, the light shows solid red, telling the engineer to stop the train. Sanchez never reports seeing the signal. At 4:22:01, Sanchez sends a text message 1 second after the train runs through the red light at Topanga and starts into a blind curve. The train, traveling 42 miles per hour, is now on a collision course with a Union Pacific freight train traveling the opposite direction at 41 miles per hour. The freight train engineer hits the brakes just before impact, but it's too late to stop in time to avoid the head-on crash.
This is the highest energy event that I've ever looked at.
Forensic scientist Dave King studied the physics of the crash. He says when the freight train's locomotive hit the much lighter Metrolink locomotive, it drove it straight backward, causing it to telescope inside the first passenger car.
It completely entered the passenger car to a depth of, well, probably almost the entire length of the locomotive, close to 58 feet.
The first passenger car with the locomotive inside careened off the track. The remaining 2 passenger cars crashed to a halt in a fraction of a second, but stayed on the track.
What a horrible situation.
But those final moments are only part of the story.
So they have a major trauma situation on their hands here.
To understand what really happened, we have to look at a bigger picture. Metrolink personnel, including engineers, are employees of Veolia Transportation, Inc. It's the world's largest transportation company and a subsidiary of French giant Veolia Environment, a Fortune 200 company that boasts revenue of more than $48 billion a year. Veolia advertises a commitment to world-class safety and publishes this code of business conduct. But senior managers testify they've never even seen it.
Are you familiar with that document?
I can't remember seeing this document.
We now know Sanchez's texting was not an isolated incident, and something to which managers turned a blind eye. This chart, starting a month before the accident, shows Sanchez routinely sent dozens of text messages on days he was driving Metrolink trains. In early August, 6 weeks before the crash, conductor Robert Heldenbrand reported to senior manager Richard Doyle that Sanchez was using his cell phone on days he was driving Metrolink trains. No disciplinary action was taken. When Doyle saw him with his cell phone while on duty, a serious written rule violation, he took no action.
At any of those times that you actually saw his cell phone before the Chatsworth collision, did you counsel him on being careful not to violate the cell phone rule?
No, because, I did not counsel him or tell him to be careful not to violate the cell phone rule.
August 19th, 2008. Sanchez stops his train for 4 minutes to check whether a safety light is working. When conductor Heldenbrand files his delay report, his managers tell him to falsify the document.
What else did he say when he talked to you at the Taylor Yard about the problems with the 4-minute delay?
He told me I should have buried it as an ADA.
All right, then explain what it means to bury it with like an ADA.
In other words, write that I was unloading a passenger in a wheelchair.
This wasn't the first time Veolia faced accusations of falsifying safety records. 5 months before the disaster, in this letter to the Federal Railroad Administration, the United Transportation Union warns of the unsafe, dangerous, and illegal practice of falsifying records to indicate different arrival times to increase on-time performance bonuses and Veolia profits.
If a train is delayed, it's important to know, was there a safety reason for delaying that train? And only by having accurate records about why a train was delayed can you determine if there are safety issues out there that need to be addressed and that safety issues are being addressed.
But Veolia management took no action to stop managers from attempting to falsify records or to stop the persistent texting in the months leading up to the crash.
That is an engine, though, that is crumpled into that passenger car. So this is actually a very, very traumatic crash.
The true cost of this disaster won't be realized for years. But one retired judge estimates damages of more than $500 million. Attorneys for the victims think it could be more than $600 million. But that's impossible for the families to collect. Section 28103 of U.S. Code Title 49 caps the total damages paid in any single railroad incident at $200 million.
The cap was put in place as a way of ensuring that Amtrak, which is a government-run passenger railroad system, would not be subject to higher liability costs.
And now, Veolia wants to use that law to shelter itself and put the burden on U.S. taxpayers. Consider this study by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It estimates the statistical value of saving a human life at $5.8 million. Multiply that by the 24 victims killed in the crash, and the estimated compensation for the families of those killed is $139 million. Under the cap, that leaves just $61 million for the remaining 150 injured victims, much less than they need to pay for medical bills and lost wages. Yet Veolia has the capacity to pay millions more without affecting its operations. If the cap remains in place, victims like Rachel Maffia will get only half, maybe even a third, of what she needs to pay for surgeries, all of her past medical bills, and a lifetime of care. And Doyle Saucer will get a fraction of what she needs to take care of her children on her own. The victims of Metrolink 111 ask you to help retroactively lift the $200 million cap so they can receive the compensation they deserve. Doing so will not expose Amtrak or any government entity. And it's happened before. In 2002, a train derailed in the little town of Minot, North Dakota. It spilled a load of anhydrous ammonia, creating a toxic cloud over the town. Congress used its power to retroactively change the law and get victims their full damages. The victims of Metrolink 111 deserve the same justice. Nearly 2 years after the crash, faded crosses still mark the place where 25 Americans lost their lives. And now their families are asking for your help so that they're not victimized twice. First by the tragic crash of Metrolink 111, and then by a system that takes away what little justice they can get.